Hi, I'm Florian, lead developer at Moebiusgames. We are here at the Rated R show to present our game Exotic Matter. Stay tuned.
Hello guys and welcome back. Welcome back to this week's episode. Yes, my name is Bamm and welcome to my little segment of upcoming games. Believe it or not, July, very thin on the ground for games when it comes to games, essentially. However, it is what I would like to call the Nintendo month, because there's quite a few launches coming out on Nintendo. There's only 3 games that I could dig out with my wooden spoon that I thought were any interesting, really. Any interesting? God, I've been up north too long, far too long. Anyway, right. First game on the chopping block is released on the 10th of July, Shining Resonance Refrain. Essentially, it's a remastered version of a Japanese release-only game, and it's a role-playing game. You know, the only bit that caught my eye with it was that it's coming out on Nintendo Switch. Now, to me, that says Nintendo Switch are, how do you say, catering for the older customers, their older clientele, because believe it or not, I grew up with the Nintendo Famicom. If you guys don't know what that is, this is bog standard NES. I went from the NES to a SAGA 16-bit, and then from there went to PlayStation, and then PlayStation 2, and I've never left PlayStation since. A little bit of a rough history. Anyway. It's coming on PC, Switch, PS4, Xbox, role-playing game. It's developed by Mediavision, and the publisher is SAGA. Of course it's SAGA. So yes, an old game made to look pretty to release on the nowadays, because by all means, it's a good game. A lot of people enjoy it. Right. Next game on the chopping block comes out on the 24th of July. Yes, I know, I've jumped 14 days, but believe it or not, when it comes to video games, this month is a bit scarce, and there's very little to spare. So this one will blow your hair back. Believe it or not, No Man's Sky. Yes, No Man's Sky has been launched for months now. It's finally coming to Xbox. Yes, Xbox. So welcome, my Xbox brethren. Welcome to the flustercluck that is No Man's Sky. Yes, guys, as we know, it's developed by Hello Games and also published by them as well. And guys from Xbox, you can now join me. You can join me in the randomly generated creatures that look like they've been created by a 10-year-old who's played Spore too long. I swear, it's mad. The creatures make no sense, and the visual is all brown, and it's Anyway, if you guys want to go play spacey Minecraft and micromanage the resources out of... Yeah, I played the game, was not impressed. It's basically space Minecraft. It's the bare minimum is what I can really call it. And a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people do disagree with me. So please, if you do, say so. And I'd like to know what you guys think when it comes to that 24th of July, Xbox One, No Man's Sky. Right, the game that I really found interesting this month was also released on the 24th of July. Believe it or not, I'm going to try and get G to play this game, because all G plays is Sid Meier's. That's all he plays. Sid Meier's or Railroad Tycoon, if the mood takes him. So, believe it or not, this game was actually partially successful. Well, it was a successful game, partially funded on Kickstarter. Got my words mixed up there, apologies. They asked for $200,000, they got $400,000 odd when the campaign finally ended on Kickstarter. The developer for the game is Stoic, and the publisher is Versus Evil. The game, guys, as we all should know, is The Banner Saga 3. It is the final installment. Now, I'm going to try and sell this game to G because he likes micromanagement. He likes to micromanage, I want to say, the corn out of fecal matter, but you know, that's just G. That is G to a nut. So, G, my man, this is a tactical role-playing game that's also based on Viking mythology and, Denmark, Norway, Sweden. We all know Denmark were the pretty boy Vikings. They didn't really do much apart from look pretty and wear the bling bling. We all know the Norwegians and Swedes did all the fighting and all the hard work. Paris, Hungary, England, all them nasty. Were done by the Norwegians, weren't they? G. Yeah? Norwegian. Anyway. Getting a bit sidetracked. I'm trying to wind G up here. The game is based and inspired on the Vikings. You know, lovely, beautiful, amazing. Very, very good looking game, this. I really like the look of this. I might go ahead and purchase it myself. And believe it or not, it is launching across all platforms. Yes, this is what perked my interest when it came to the game. It's launching out on the Mac. So gee, you can play this game too. Mac peoples out there, the minority of you lot, you can play this game too. So PC, Mac, Xbox, Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, believe it or not. The Nintendo Switch, I swear, they really are, Nintendo rather, are catering to the older clientele now. Finally, the family view of Nintendo is finally being eroded by people who actually have grown up and actually want to play, I want to say normal games? They have to sort of, you know, that bag of nostalgia is slowly being tightened because Mario is a dying franchise. You know, I can't wait until that fat plumber finally just ends. You know, God. Anyway, as I was saying, it's the final installment of this trilogy. I might be doing a bit of a piece on Stoic and versus Evil, so guys, that essentially was it. Thank you very much for joining me, hearing me ramble on about games that I thought were interesting this month. Thank you very much. My name is Dev Havoc. Toodaloo.
To the mercenary clan he created, the Ravens.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm writer and narrative designer on Exotic Matter. Chatting to you now on the Rated R Show.
And we're back again. Hi everybody. Yes, it's one of those interviewy things that we keep coming back to because, hey, we like talking to people. With us this time, I have two guys from Moebiusgames. It's making a little game called Exotic Matter. Say hi to Florian and Alex.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, that was the shortest greeting. Gentlemen, Florian, Alex, so, just so we get the titles and everything in place, Florian, you should be the game designer development lead on this little thing of yours, this little game here. And Alex, what was it, that title that you said?
Narrative designer?
Narrative designer, that sounds so awesome. Like, really important. Although, yeah, I like a good narrative in my game, so it is important.
Excellent, yeah, it sort of ranges it beyond that a little bit. It's quite a close collaboration between us, so it ranges into the game design in general, but I came on board just doing the kind of writing and story stuff, which is what narrative design is, so.
But is that always the case in these smaller teams? You have more than one hat on?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think it happens no matter what game you're working on. You're always going to see something and think of something and suggest it, but I guess when it's a small team, like basically it's a one-man team, basically. It's Florian and I'm just kind of helping out, and he's got an artist and a couple other people, and yeah, we're all bouncing ideas around. I guess because I'm writing text and helping him develop the story, it's maybe closer than most.
Well, in that case, I guess it's Florian we should ask. Florian, tell us about this little game, this Exotic Matter.
Yeah, Exotic Matter is basically my first big game that I'm working on. I started back in 2011 when I was basically playing a lot of Minecraft, and I thought to myself, why is there no story? Why is there nothing to accomplish in Minecraft? And I thought I should do something like that. I should create a game where you have a mission to accomplish, and because I'm a big sucker for sci-fi, I thought this had to be in a sci-fi world, so I came up with the idea for Exotic Matter, basically.
So we're talking this similar mechanics to that game. Voxel-based, run around on a planet, except this time there's method to madness. There's a purpose to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea is the basic idea is exploration. I mean, the game is all about exploration, but I wanted to have some kind of purpose, and you're crash landed on this planet, which is called Excellent, and you're basically searching for a way back home, and there's so many mysteries and things to discover, and it's not as endless as some other games, which I won't mention now, but it's it's more story driven basically, but it's still open world, and it's still you still can decide your own path to go. It's just the story helps you basically through the game, and to find some way basically to things to do, to know what you want to do. I mean, in other voxel games, it's just a playground. You do whatever you want, but it's getting boring quite easily because there's nothing really to accomplish.
Do you then have is it full-on survival? Do we have to find... I understood it wasn't water, but that purple thing. Do you have to find drinkables? Do we have to hunt animals, build a campfire, eventually build a kitchen so we can cook bigger animals? I didn't want to go that way, to be too much into survival. I mean, there's a survival part. You fight NPCs and basically you have to find certain items on the planet that are hidden and things like that. But you don't have to fight for the normal things like air or something to eat or things like that. I think that's a bit too easy game mechanics basically, because you end up to spend all your time cooking things or preparing food or finding oxygen or something like that, and I think that gets boring quite easily. So we don't do that. Yeah, I'm a little bit with you. That whenever there's an option for it, that's the first thing I turn off in survival games. Find water, done. Checkbox.
Something else that Florian hasn't really touched on yet is that the game has a lot of Metroidvania aspects. So it wasn't Florian's original vision, but it's kind of grown that way. It seems quite natural. If you don't have to wrestle against the elements, if you don't have to, stay warm and drink and eat, etc., what does the player have to really go up against? And looking at how Florian had developed his sort of procedural generation system, it makes this world that's an open world, but it's not too big. It drops in these kind of locations or almost like missions or levels into the game and procedurally generates those as well. And it was a natural step to building a Metroidvania kind of aspect to it. So you might start with nothing in the game, and then when you manage to leave your ship and complete the first sort of location, you might get a better piece of equipment, a more powerful laser or explosive or something, and that will enable you to explore further in the world and go into other locations, which is something that, as far as I'm aware, nothing like the game that shall not be named has a sort of actual progression through it. In terms of you're gated, you can't get into this location until you do this. You can't finish the story until you do this other thing, and you have to explore and interact with the world to do all that.
Yeah, I spent very little time in that other game. I do remember it had something, build a house and survive a night, and now you can get into the big world. But that was it. From there on, it's just whatever you can imagine.
Yeah, which is great. It's a great game, but I think there's definitely something to be had here. We've got a lot of references to classic sci-fi games and classic Metroidvania games, and also classic roguelites, in terms of the fact that it's almost like a dungeon thing. You have to go and find dungeons and go into them and explore them and survive them, which again is another aspect that those sort of voxel survival games don't really touch on. They've got the procedural generation, but they don't go like that.
So is there a concept of biomes? Like, you start in one biome that is easy, and then there are other biomes that are harder that you need to reach eventually to get the material that you need to build whatever gets you off the planet?
I mean, what we did is, that there are some biomes in the game, and there will be more biomes in the game. But what we have, or at least I call it sites, you have basically these sites where the dungeons are created by the dungeon generator. And they are placed according to a certain algorithm. So the easy ones are placed closer to the player's starting point, basically, and the more complicated or more difficult ones get placed farther away. That's how it works, basically. So,
and we're also taking nods from I mean, yeah, I guess I have to mention it, but yeah, other games like, Elites or No Man's Sky and things like that, games where it's like finding out where you have to go and finding destinations that'll get flagged up to you is going to be part of the progression. So you can just wander around with nothing on the map if you want, but you can also find things that'll point like, oh, hey, there might be something interesting over there, or there might be something interesting over there. We don't want to go as far as a Ubisoft game where your map is just covered in hundreds of dots. We just want to give the player some sort of direction, just a hint, like go have a look at this, you might find something on the way. That kind of progression, yeah.
A little bit like, well, I hate to keep bringing up other games, but Subnautica's beacons.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I remember that's the thing where Subnautica kind of drew me in, was this whole, oh, there's a beacon over there 7 kilometers away. Okay, that'll be a nice swim.
Yes, yeah. Subnautica is actually something that I was chatting with Florian about recently. They did some really interesting things, sometimes scary things, when you get a beacon that's like 3 kilometers straight down into a pitch black crevice in the ocean. It's like, I don't want to go down there. But yeah, it's a really good way of doing things. As far as I'm aware, Subnautica still just throws them at you. They're just there, and we're still trying to avoid that, so they won't even appear until the player kind of finds them and unlocks them, to give you a bit more of a structure. Like how in a Metroidvania game, you won't be shown the next place you have to go until you have done a bit more exploring. You might have a hint of it, but it's not going to be accessible easily.
Okay, so we're kind of forced to get out there on our own. It isn't just go over there, now go over there.
Yes.
I think I can appreciate that. It's one of the things that makes it fun, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
So, slight question, because you already said, let's find some equipment and let's make a bigger laser mining tool. And you said there's sites with, well, little dungeons, caves, challenges. How do you do challenges in a world where you have a mining laser that cuts through everything?
Basically, the mining laser that you get have different laser classes. We have 4 laser classes at the moment, and the blocks basically can't be cut by certain lasers. So you start with this very weak emergency drill in the game, and you can't cut every block. You just can cut certain types of blocks. And so you also can't drill down deep into the crust of the planet at the beginning. So you have to find better lasers, basically. But of course, there are always different approaches to solve the dungeons. There are explosives in the game, and you can basically force your way into a dungeon, not take the main entrance. That's possible, but the explosives are very expensive to create, basically. So you can't just brute force everything.
Yeah, and that ties into the Metroidvania aspect. It's kind of strange to think of a voxel-based survival game and a Metroidvania. It's going to be quite interesting. But that's it. Like, your class, you might be stuck with your little emergency mining laser for a while. And then you get down to the bottom of the first dungeon and open a crate and, oh, here's a class 1 mining laser. Now I can access that little secret spot that I found that I couldn't get into earlier on. But of course you could, as Florian said, use an explosive, but it's all meant to be risk reward, so you might end up destroying everything with the explosive, or not having the resources to make it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, or the NPCs will kill you when they see you because you're not equipped for that kind of dungeon.
Okay, so follow the gatekeeping or take a big risk.
Yeah, and it should be possible, but it should be difficult. It'd be a fun thing to do, definitely, if scary.
I mean, the idea is not to force the player to do anything. I mean, it's an open world, and the player can do anything they want, and that's the basic idea. But the storyline and things like that are guiding the player, basically, just guiding them but not forcing them.
Okay. Sorry. In most of these survival games, then, you said you find possibly a Mark 1 mining laser, but I assume we are also building things, or is it just like that other game that we just take blocks and put them there? Like, is it only, I have a block, I can put it, or can we assemble more complex things?
Yep, it's a good question. Florian, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that there are two possible ways to craft new things. And we wanted to have this easy crafting approach that most of these voxel games have. We want to have that as well, but not that you have to open a browser or something to look up the exact pattern you need to put the things to get something new. Instead, we have something that's just 4 spots where you could put items, and then if these items are combinable somehow, then you get something new. And for more complex things, you need to find blueprints. That also prevents the player from playing the game again and then just knowing how to craft the uber things, basically. So we have these two concepts, basically. You have the small crafting thing, and you have what we call replication system, where you can replicate things by finding the blueprint, and then the blueprint tells you which items you need to actually craft the things then.
So it's... Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so it's basically like a best of both worlds kind of thing. So, yeah, you get the simple stuff like in Minecraft, how you can just get some wood and then have an axe. But we've also got the bigger, more complex things, some of which can be very big and very powerful, that can only be made when you found the blueprint. So that again ties to the idea that there's player freedom, but it's funneled. It's got a bit of focus, a bit of drive, so players can't just do everything from the outset.
Exactly. So that's where because your notes here that you have for the game says there's things left behind by an ancient civilization. So that's partly these blueprints, or is that more actual items that you find?
Both, right? Yeah, you find these dungeons we've mentioned, sites or facilities. Yeah, they're loaded chock full of various resources and various bits of technology. But then, yeah, also, part of the lore is that this race actually have provided you with some things already, and while you're exploring the world, you'll find other parts of like blueprints. You'll find other blueprints that help you build better things that have been left by these aliens.
But do they tie into the story then? Are we kind of doing some archaeological work as well? Or are we just going, full on Tomb Raider or Dr. Jones, just break everything and take everything? Yes, worst archaeology.
It's up to the player, actually. Like, if I were playing Exotic Matter and I hadn't worked on it, if I was just picking it up and playing it for the first time, I would probably do it with slightly more respect than Indiana Jones. I'd probably, hack my way into the facilities, find my way down, explore quite cautiously. But I imagine, and I'd probably do a bit of looting, but not go all out, find the blueprints and tech they leave behind. But I imagine some players will just go full, explode their way in, steal everything, destroy the machinery and things left by them, and then quit. So it's up to player again, in that respect.
But is there at least some story elements to it? Does it tell us anything, or is it more, you can be respectful, but it doesn't... do we learn anything about this civilization?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Florian, do you want to answer? Or?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you are the story creator, right? But as far as we talked about it, there's a background story. I mean, we have, 30 pages background story Bible with everything in it. It's all tied into the game now, partly at least. The alien civilization that left their ruins basically on the planet, they leave information behind. Basically, you can find this information. You can also later in the game you will be able to translate this information because it's written in their language, of course. And you learn a lot about why you even came to this place and things like that. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but it's all tied together.
There's
basically.
A reason you're here, there's a reason you're on this specific planet and looking for certain specific things. It's seeing as we're a small team, and of course, whenever you're developing a story that can't have too many characters or voice actors or anything, a lot of the storytelling is environmental and passive. So it's about exploring, finding the odd bit of text that pieces together this bit of lore, and then we give the player, these kind of few bits of direction and then something to do to finish the game. But as a narrative designer, a big part of the role is building the environment as storytelling. So, these aliens that have been there, you find out more about them, you find out about where they went, what happened to them, you explore, and you also find out about why the world is the way it is, and where you are, what the places are that you're going into. And it's all, as Florian said, we've worked to make it all intertwined, so it fits into a big sort of robust universe that hopefully players will find engaging.
So would there be an explanation for why everything's purple?
Maybe, yeah.
Sorry, that was just one of the things that stood out a lot in one of the trailers, because everything's purple.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, the purple thing is I don't know. We have the exotic matter in the game is this special purple thing that's called Violex. That's basically why purple is one of the main colors of the game. But it basically goes all back to one of these novels or basically one novel that I read back in 2011 or something, that inspired me a lot. It's called Solaris, and that's a really, really cool sci-fi novel. And in this novel, they are on a planet, and the planet has two suns, basically, one blue and one reddish sun, and together that creates the illusion that the planet is actually purple, and that's what I wanted to also have in this game. So that's where this comes from, basically.
And they make a movie with that name.
Yes.
Yeah,
two
but
movies.
The movie is bad.
They don't really get it. They don't capture what made the novel so great. But yeah, there are other biomes. It's not all purple, but yeah, purple is like the primary color.
Oh, it's okay. It was just, I said, one of the things that caught my eye, because it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, everything today, all games are blue, or some of them are green, maybe. But I think it's also nice to have some other colors for a change.
Well, it was fun because what was it last year? Every year there's an organization that declares what is the color of the year. And for last year, it was one of these deep purples.
Really?
Because it was literally used in almost every single movie. Right up until Guardians of the Galaxy. So it blew it up and kind of added more color again.
All right. Well, I mean, at least it's good to know that Exotic Matter has been focused on purple for longer than last year. So at least didn't get it from that. But that's really interesting.
As I said, it goes back to 2011, basically.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's interesting to know.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why this became a thing was because it's the color they chose is this really deep infraviolet, purple, and it adds this very somber but also dangerous mood to movies.
Well, somber but dangerous sounds like a pretty accurate phrase for Exotic Matter. I might steal that.
Yeah, it fits perfectly.
Okay, I kind of have to ask. I have my notes. I know what it says, but no, these kind of games tend to be very multiplayer centered. Yeah,
that's true. Normally.
Why are you guys going for a single player experience?
Actually, I think it's when I started this game, I wanted to have a game that I wanted to play, and I'm not so. I mean, I love a good multiplayer game, but I don't know, the big one with the mysterious name that I'm not telling now was never that much fun. I thought about playing this game in multiplayer mode. So and I'm basically the explorer type of game player, basically. So I think that's why there's no multiplayer mode at the moment, and I think it doesn't really need a multiplayer mode. I think the target audience for this game is wants to explore, wants to sink a lot of time into the game, and I think it's a different kind of player who plays such games as multiplayer. They want to just have this short, intense fun thing, but then it's quickly over basically. And this game is not about that. It's about exploration. It's about solving puzzles. It's about finding things. And yeah, I think that multiplayer doesn't fit here.
I think especially, really, as I said, pulling it again back to the Metroidvania thing, because that's a really interesting angle. You'll be hard pressed to think of any Metroidvanias that have multiplayer, I think. Like your Castlevanias, your Metroids, like Hollow Knight just came out on Switch. Like big ones like Prey and Bioshock. Essentially, none of those have got multiplayer modes. It lets you gate the player experience and keep the player kind of hooked on, so people get really immersed in it, which you'd lose if there was 4 other people running around blowing stuff up and breaking your progression.
I guess it does present certain issues also when you want to have a story-driven game, or at least a game with a story in it, that leads you forward.
Yeah.
Multiplayer means all players have to kind of get the story, otherwise they're going to be left behind. Otherwise they're going to just be missing part of why are we doing this, except I have a mining laser and there's a block.
Yeah. There's also the momentum effect, which is, say if there were a few players running around with you, if you're all trying to press forward and trying to get to the next place, if you stop and find a text or see an interesting part of the world, you're not going to take your time to read it or walk over and have a look around. If there's 4 of you, you're going to be trying to press forward. It sort of focuses on gameplay. It makes people just rush and play in action. And we want people to be more immersed and more explorative.
I'm trying to think of there's a Eco, it's called. There's a survival game where you have to kind of protect a planet from an asteroid that's about to hit you. And that one is, interestingly enough, centered around, so not Metroidvania, not story-driven, but it's centered around that you have to be multiplayer, because they balance literally everything about there being multiple people. Whereas pretty much take the opposite direction, just said everything's about this one character, this one person.
That's interesting. Need to look that one up.
Sorry, Alex, you broke up completely there.
Oh, sorry. I just said it's interesting. We need to look that up.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Eco is a fun little game, but it's not for single player unless you go in and edit the heck out of it, because you'll get a rock on your head literally in that game if you tried single player with the defaults.
Yeah, a very big rock at high velocity.
You say that the game, it's free roam, and you pretty much have a planet to run around. So I kind of have to ask, is it an actual planet, or is it just like a flat surface? Because Minecraft kind of got boring to me because it's just this flat surface. Whereas Space Engineers, to take one of the other ones, and sorry I'm mentioning names again.
That's okay. I don't think we can avoid it, really.
Nah, it's difficult because there are so many games that have latched on to the concept of voxels and then added their own little thing.
Yeah.
Space Engineers was interesting because it went full on and said, well, let's make them spherical. Let's make actual spherical planets. And then has these, what are they? 1/100th of Earth in size, so 60 kilometers in diameter. Where's this planet? Is it one of the flat ones, or is it, can we actually go all the way around it?
I mean, you can actually go all the way around the planet, but it's actually flat. So, I mean, it's quite similar to here on Earth. You think you're running on a flat surface, and actually it's round. So it's just big enough so that you don't feel that it's round. And of course, it isn't round in because it would make the engine very complicated to just, I mean, at these small angles.
Oh yeah, because at some point your boxes stop being, completely perfectly cubic.
Yeah, they bend.
Yeah, exactly.
Bendy boxes.
So, but then how big is it? How much surface are we talking about? How are we, square kilometers or?
That's a good question, because actually, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the game is basically it's an engine with one mod, basically. That's what Exotic Matter is. And the engine is not limited in the size. I think the current, for the early access version that we're about to release at the end of the month is, I think we have, I calculated it, but I'm not sure. I think it's something like, I don't know, 16 square kilometers or something.
That's fairly big.
But it can be even bigger. We just limited it now for the early access version, because later when we add more content to it, then we just can make the world bigger.
Because
basically.
because it's like a Metroid game but procedurally generated, we have to be careful about the size. You couldn't have a Metroid game that's puts the first dungeon like 200 miles away. We need to make sure it's just big enough that players can get there with a good bit of exploration, but not so small that it feels small. But yeah, as Florian said, within the engine there's no limit, so it can be as big as you like.
And since there are dungeons, I should probably ask, how deep is it? Are we talking again, are you mining kilometers down, and with all the headaches and hazards that include?
No, actually, the height of the planet is just limited to 128 blocks. It's because, I mean, the one thing that I hated about the other game is that you can get lost. I mean, you can get lost in the horizontal dimensions, right? And so I didn't want to get the play to get the player to get lost in the vertical dimension as well. So it's also limited. I think that's important. That there are some limits in Exotic Matter, and these limits are carefully placed so that the game doesn't get boring in a way. So that, I mean, in the other game you can get lost quite easily, and that's something that really frustrated me a lot. And with our game, you also have a map from the beginning, so you don't get lost that easily. And I think that's important, because if you don't find your way back to your base, you don't find your way back to the next part of the story, then this is a bad thing, and you will stop playing the game.
We've also, because it's sci-fi, we could take some liberties and provide some tools that could help you get around or get back to your base more easily, even if you're stuck at level 0, or like level 1, like the lowest blocks. There should be pretty easy ways to get back up, far easier than in something like Minecraft, where you can spend ages running around. I just said the name again. far easier than in that. But also, as much as the height is limited to 128 bottom to top, having played it, when you look down deep into a chasm or a cave, you don't see the number, you just see a really, really deep hole that's quite intimidating. So I think it feels like a pretty good height, even if it doesn't sound like a huge amount. Yes.
But it's enough. I think it's fully enough for this kind of game. Yeah.
Well, assuming blocks are about a meter high, then yeah, that should be enough.
Still pretty big, yeah.
So, the big thing, the reason why you guys are here is because, well, early access is coming up. What is it, June 29th?
Right. Yeah, June 29th.
Just a couple of days.
Yeah, don't mention it. Because there's some things that still need to be done.
Well, it's early access. There's always something that needs to be done, so...
Yeah, literally, yeah. By definition.
Yeah, sure. I mean, still there's some polishing that we need to do before it's ready for release. And yeah, polishing takes so much time.
Well, ultimately, it's the last 20% of a game that takes 80% of the time, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
we were just talking about
that's
the other day.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
But what should people expect? I mean, as an early access, it's not the final game. So how much is in now versus how much should we expect down the line?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Flo.
Yeah, sorry, Alex. Please go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I mean, what should people expect? Or what is in the game now? At the moment, we have basically the shipwreck where you wake up. It's some kind of a tutorial thing where you learn a lot of things about how to interact with the environment and what you can do and what you can't do. And then we have one procedurally generated dungeon, which is quite big, and and there are lots of small things hidden on the planet, and that's basically what we are aiming for the early access release. And later on, we want to have a few more, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these big dungeons and a lot of side dungeons that people can explore. That's what we're aiming for the full release then. And adding a lot of more items and block types. I mean, we have a lot of block types and items already in the game. But as I said, the engine is so open, we can add tons of that, and we'll likely do that. And that's basically the difference between early access and the final version.
Have you already Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's quite hard to gauge because, the facilities vary in size, the side content will vary in size, but right now it will be a smallish open world with a handful of things to do, and by the final launch it should be a large open world with a number of things to do, like quite a large number of things to do and explore and see and unlock and discover.
Have you already decided on a cadence of updates, or adding things, how often that will happen, if it's every 3 months or every other month? Or
I thought about having, I don't know, I mean, it's really hard to tell how much is, I mean, thinking about, there's some things, let me put it that way, there's some things that are easy to put into the game, and there's some things that are more complicated, and depending on that, I mean, a regular schedule would be good, I think, so something like monthly maybe, but it's
careful with that
yet.
The moment anybody hears monthly maybe, they do not hear the maybe. Trust me.
Too true.
I know.
As Florian said, some things are easy, some things aren't. So it'll probably be a mix of small things, details, getting updated quite consistently, but then periodical large chunks like whole facilities or dungeons will get added in more irregularly, less regularly.
I mean, the first thing I really want to add, and I wanted to have it for early access now, but it's just not doable. So we'll come with an update, is to integrate the Steam Workshop. So as I said, the game is basically an engine, so people can create their own worlds, their own world templates, so their own planets, sort of, with their own block types and item types and NPCs and stuff like that. And I want that to integrate into the game, that the people can share that via Steam easily. That's I think the first big update that
so a little bit of a TikTok process, smaller ticks and the occasional talk with a lot of information and a lot of update.
Yeah.
Okay. And you kind of hit on one of the next things I wanted to bring up, because JavaScript modding in the game, isn't that risky if you have a story in it?
I mean, it's not modding in a classical sense. I mean, it's more like you create really your own world. So you can basically say, okay, I want to create a new planet. The new planet has to look like this, has these block types. You create your own block types. I mean, you can copy over block types from the main story. That will be allowed. But you can create your own block types, and therefore you can create your own planets. It will look completely different. You can create your completely strange looking worlds or whatever you want. For example, if you want to have a Doom world, for example, you can create something like that easily.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning the sort of how Florian has described it in terms of what you get when you download the game. And when you download the game, you get an engine which is really robust and can do a lot of stuff. And then just plugged on top of that engine is excellent. Is like the game world, and it is just as Florian said, it's just like a mod. Each kind of world will be a little mod, just a folder full of stuff. And indeed, the story, the entire game, Exotic Matter, is just a mod. It's just a folder with a planet in it and a bunch of assets and scripts connected to that planet. So there's not really much risk. Like, users are it's totally open. They're free to look at it, peruse it, copy it into their own world, that sort of thing. I mean, they can change it if they want, but Steam probably wouldn't like that. But yeah, it's all open basically.
So don't turn on Steam God.
Maybe, yeah. We'll have to see how that pans out.
Well, it sounds a little bit like you took the approach that Kerbal Space Program took, because it's also just an engine, and then all the game files are right there you can mess with.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was
Kerbal
open.
Space Program did that. But yeah,
I've
something like
not
that.
seen another game as open as that one outside of open source.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that was one thing that I really wanted to have, is that people can create their own worlds. I mean, just like I, back in 2011 when I started with the game, just like I wanted to create this game, this exotic matter, excellent world game, basically, and yeah, I wanted to make that available for other people to create their own worlds. If they say, okay, I don't like the normal world, the excellent world, the main world of the game, I create my own world. I want to have maybe less story or more story or other enemies, or I want to have it more of a medieval style game, or I don't know, things like that. It's all possible.
So can people even make their own objects? Can we make our own doors and windows and mining lasers, along with models and textures?
Yeah, exactly. You can basically, what you do is you define your for example, you can define a block type, and you can say, okay, this block type, for example, is a door, and this block type reacts to certain info. I mean, there's a wireless transmission in the game, so you can send wireless information between blocks. So you can say, okay, this door, this block, which I say is a door, has this mesh and has this mesh part as door, and then you can basically, via scripting, it sounds more complicated than it really is. You can then actually say, okay, move the door when I get the wireless command, basically. That's how doors work. For example, you can also have a door that reacts, for example, to the player getting close to the door. Or you can have a door that reacts to the player throwing an item at the door, or things like that. You can have all sorts of things, and you can combine them however you want and create new things like that. Even things that we didn't think of.
And because
before.
Obviously Florian spent so long building it into the kind of default game, the default world that you get with the game, people will be able to copy a lot of the functionality and reuse it. And because it's in JavaScript, it'll be so easy to do that. Like all that code about how doors work,
Yeah.
you just find the right block and just yank it over into your own little mod and plug it into some block type and some mesh type, and it'll happen.
Yeah, and then maybe just change a few things, and then it's your block, basically, what you want to do with it.
Well, as somebody who has an aversion to JavaScript, I hope other people will do it. And since you keep talking about doors, for some reason, I want somebody to make the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy door that just goes,
That's a
every
good
time you
idea.
pass through.
That's a great idea. I might put that.
Yeah, it's
let's
possible,
put that in
yeah,
the game.
yeah.
We'll call it the G door.
At least it will be a nice little troll or something like that, run across it. And why is that door sighing at me?
Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy.
That's
is
a really good idea,
reference, yeah. Squeeze in a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
towel is an important object. A towel grants invincibility or something.
I can't imagine. It's one of these things. I would go berserk if I wrote my own game. It was one of the reasons I don't. There would be, yes, references to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy all over the place as one of them. How can you not?
I know. It's so rich.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we
We
should.
should put a towel somewhere.
Don't forget to embroider "Don't Forget" or something into it.
Oh, too true. Yeah. In the alien language. Don't
Yeah.
Don't panic.
Yeah, it's just that it has to. I mean, and by all means, if people out there don't like the books, then you're wrong. Don't like the movie, okay, that I can appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a ton of other science fiction and science fantasy out there that people can mimic, but that's just one of those. How can you not?
It's got to be done. You forgot to mention the radio play. The radio play is the best one. That was the original version. That's great. It's so good.
Yeah, the radio play.
That was the
I'm
original.
told the game is actually pretty good. There's no video
That's
game
true.
for it as well.
Yeah, the text adventure. But yeah, anyway, yeah, probably enough chat about that.
I mean, we plan to add some references, of course. I mean, at least it's on my list. I don't know if it's on your list, Alex, but it's on my list.
I just do it by
to add
default.
some references.
That's what a writer's job is.
Ah, okay.
I think it's Cormac McCarthy said, the brutal truth is that stories feed on the remains of other stories. So you just go and read lots of sci-fi and then just cannibalize it and vomit it back up into different content.
Yeah.
Although hopefully it's not like vomit.
Oh,
Yeah, but sorry. I just wanted to say I meant like also hiding some things.
Yeah.
Like maybe I don't know. I thought about hiding some special blocks or items somewhere that basically have no connection to the story, but
Easter
are just
eggs.
references to
Yeah,
some
Easter
sci-fi
eggs will be
things.
in the game.
Yeah, Easter eggs. Yeah.
but
Can confirm. That's a breaking news for
Definitely.
you there.
Yeah.
isn't that some of the best ones? One thing is, here's an Easter egg that we can tie back to a game or a radio play or anything else. But the ones where you just go, I have no idea. This thing is out of place. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But the developers are just laughing their ass off over it.
Yeah, definitely experienced a few Easter eggs I did not understand in the past, so that is part of the fun.
But now
it is.
you got me thinking, because it's only a week ago I was reading a thread on Twitter, a bunch of writers, and they basically just agreed that, everything that's coming out today is just a regurgitation of, and then, the various classics. And
Yeah.
literally next to each other, they were saying, the stories of Gilgamesh and Lord of the Rings, like, these are the archetypes that are there story-wise. The rest of us are just paying homage to them.
Yep. I mean, it goes, the idea goes back a long way. And there's a lot of interesting philosophy about it. For instance, the argument that there's only one real story. It's it's a kind of metaphorical way of putting it. But the one real story is somebody comes to town or somebody leaves town, and you can interpret it in countless different ways. Somebody dies, somebody's born, somebody comes into a situation, somebody leaves a situation, somebody changes, somebody doesn't change. So arguably you can boil all stories down to one kind of concept of change or not change. You can't get hung up on it as a writer. Because nothing is original, and the more inspiration you take, the better your work becomes. And
You know what? That last bit is absolutely true. Well, the whole thing, but anybody who wants to write, the first thing you have to do is read.
yeah, exactly.
That's so true.
And just FYI, read as varied and as wide as you can. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't go,
yeah,
I'm not going to read this because of something. No, just read it. It's not good. You've read it, and you can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you have to read the bad books, watch the bad movies, play the bad games just as much as all the good stuff. It just lets you see things in a different light. And I think the same goes for games as well, actually. It's been good working with Florian, and Florian's been in this room hammering away an engine. It's been great to just come along and be like, oh, did you not realise that your game is doing this other thing that's really great, and this other thing, and do you not realise you're making a Metroidvania here? And he's like, what, I am? So it's really good to realise that you're kind of, even in games, you poach bits and bobs from other games and ideas and structures and that kind of thing.
But I would think also, and sorry if I might be sounding a little bit, also particularly in the last bit, a bit prescriptivistic here, but isn't there a certain convergence in games? Because there's an upper limit to what game mechanics and what you can do that will still work. So eventually you end up doing something others have done because these are the mechanics that works, and therefore you end up with a certain convergence towards, for example, Metroidvania.
Yeah. I think because games are a multimedia medium, it's very complicated, that idea. Yeah, I guess the player, the person experiencing it is going to be limited in certain ways. I'm not sure. I need to think about that one. Part of my heart is saying you're wrong, and that just with creativity and good design, you can come up with really crazy ideas and avoid convergence. But I mean, my head is all saying you're right because games are so mechanical and functional. But even in literature, you get convergence. You get things building off other things. You go back to the earliest novels, and the first several early novels were all basically the same thing. And it's only after 100, 150 years they started to really diverge and do weird things, and new genres started to happen, and new techniques started to come forward. So games are so young, I think it's too early to tell, really.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to I mean, even if the mechanics are limited in some way, I'm not sure if they are, but even if they are, there are so many different approaches. I mean, look at, for example, Mario, Super Mario. There's so many clones of Super Mario, and none of it got as close as to the original. And for some reason, the original is better than the clones, and it's just the same mechanics. And some people even built the mechanics, copied the mechanics, really down to some down to the algorithm basically. And it still is not the same, and it's still doesn't make that much fun.
I guess
for some reason.
What I was getting at is also there can be possibly an infinite number of mechanics, but not all of them will be successful. So I don't know if we should apply a bit of evolution theory there, but we've all played games where we go, that's an interesting mechanic you have over in that corner, but it isn't interesting to play. Like it's a nice philosophical debate you got going there, but I'm not going to play that.
Yeah. Again, as Florian said, I guess it's about implementation at that point. But yeah, because if it's off in the wrong corner, if it's implemented the wrong way, like Mario's mechanics in the wrong levels or with the wrong aesthetic, if it's not implemented right, then it doesn't work. That's part of the joy and horror of game design. It has to be this this synthesis between so many different elements. So even if there's an unlimited number of game mechanics, I doubt any one of them would arguably be bad. It's just how they're implemented into a flow and into level design, into pacing, into the audio and visual design. And if any one of those things really falls down, then the whole mechanic will not shine.
And not to forget to mention taste. It depends a lot on the taste of the people, basically, what is, and also society at large. So
I think
like
Dark Souls taught us that. The whole idea that punishing game mechanics doesn't work. Like, I don't know how many times I've had that drilled into my head. You cannot punish a player. Along comes Dark Souls and just go, hold my beer.
Yeah, here we go. Strap in.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's so true, that whole thing. And I was just going to mention when you said that, for instance, like visual novels, they're really popular, but I just don't really understand them. I play them because I quite like some of the storytelling in them, but I find the experience really odd. But then there's whole swathes of people who adore them. And it's like, that's fine. Good.
It's, for me, they come back to, it's all about narrative and narration. And they add a layer to the narration. Not necessarily to the narrative, but at least to the narration.
Yeah, the flow.
There's a value to them, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know what you mean. Especially the good ones. You're right. It is about flow. How things are introduced, how things pace, how things develop. It's different. You're right. It's different to a novel. Maybe I've just played the wrong ones.
Well, I would say it's not just on the storytelling. Last week's guest, Orphanage or Orphan Age.
Okay.
They're over on Kickstarters right now. You should check them out if you just want to get into see a little bit of a different story and different storytelling. Cool. That's definitely a story that will talk a bit at your heartstrings. Nice. It's one of those where that could easily work in a book, but they really made that work in a game.
Good.
I like that way that this medium can pick up things that a lot of people say you can't, because gaming is just about running around shooting big mining lasers at enemies.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much space for interesting experimentation and stuff like that, narratively as well.
Anyways, gentlemen, wow, it's already coming up on the hour. Time is fun when you're having flies. Which means I am technically obligated to ask you what Bamm, for some odd reason, keeps calling the penultimate question. Because He's just not good at English, I think. Typical people up in England. So I hope you're ready, because this one goes to both of you.
Okay.
Gentlemen.
Go ahead.
What kind of bacon do you two like? How do you like that bacon? And what kind of beverage do you like with your bacon?
Oh my. You can go first, Flo.
I'd say normal fried bacon. Nothing special to it. I think adding something to bacon is a sin. Bacon is perfect as it is.
Interesting.
You, Alex?
Yeah, so complicated answer from me. Yeah, I actually stopped eating it for a long time. I went vegetarian and vegan, but I've actually got so many allergies that make life so difficult. I've had to start eating meat again because there's so little I can eat. The type of bacon I like the most would probably be the kind of shredded up bacon you get. You know, it's in tiny little kind of cuboids, and I like stirring that into a nice sauce, like a tomato sauce with some vegetables. Maybe put on some pasta. In terms of beverage, I don't know. Probably just water. Exciting.
That sounds like it's a cough syrup.
Water.
Water.
Yeah.
Water works fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink cough syrup with my bacon.
Cough syrup. Okay. That would also be interesting, yeah.
But no, straight up bacon and little bacon cubes. I can live with that. Yeah. There's something nice about keeping it simple, isn't there?
Yeah. It's sort of make sure
it
blend. It's a bit flexible. You know, you don't need to chop it up.
Yeah. I think down here they're called lardons cubes.
I don't even know what they are in English. Cubes of bacon. Yeah. I'm not doing myself any favors here. Diced bacon.
Diced bacon. So like blocks. In a voxel game.
Maybe we should have a biome in exotic matter that is just like massive bacon blocks.
Yeah. Maybe we should have a bacon world.
Yeah. Call
as a mod.
Call it exotic bacon.
Exotic bacon, yeah.
Well, I can say that because of that question, there's a game somewhere where there's a bacon ship and there's a bacon asteroid in another game. Bacon biome would be a little bit bigger, but
okay,
go for it.
That's great. That's like 2.0. Next step is bacon planet.
Yeah.
I'm just pondering because you're on an alien planet. There aren't really any pigs around, so
Yeah.
No. Maybe you can grill one of the NPCs.
Grill them for answers.
won't spoil what NPCs we have, but yeah.
Grilled NPC.
No pigs.
Yeah. Diced
ketchup on them.
Yeah, I think otherwise you wouldn't be able to eat them. No. Ketchup is definitely necessary.
At least.
Now the rest of my team, when they hear this, they're gonna complain because I put ketchup on everything almost. And they
no. You're not one of those people. Do you put it on like soup and things like that?
Not soup. That wouldn't work, I think.
I've met people who put ketchup on soup.
But ketchup and soup, okay, that's just
heinous.
Crazy.
I'd rather just have a tomato soup, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Why not just do that? Yeah, they're weird people.
It's
like instant tomato soup, right? Ketchup in soup, then you have instant tomato soup.
Yeah, that's
ketchup
not gonna
in a bowl.
work. No.
But do we put ketchup on steak?
As well? Yeah, as long as it's not a good steak, then yes.
Okay, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good excuse.
Yeah, that was very good.
Steak,
that was a good save. Almost lost respect for you entirely there, but that was good. Good save.
Anyways, gentlemen, as I said, it's been the hour and we need to end this because otherwise we're just gonna keep talking about weird shit.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
I've been looking at your game prior to this, and even while I've had a little trailer running in the background here while we've been talking. I like the looks of it. I like what you're doing here. I really think this is a good approach to taking, yes, a fairly tried and true game mechanics, that is the voxels, the mining, etc., but adding a story to it, give us something to go out there and do. that is needed, because a lot of the other games are just, oh, here's a planet, now survive. I like what you're trying here, definitely. And going out into early access, getting some feedback for it, and give yourself some time to actually build the next dungeon and extend it with more side dungeons, as you said.
Yeah.
Sites. Definitely
Sites.
a good idea.
Sight. Yeah.
Thanks for saying so.
Thanks.
And I mean, keep the purple by all means. There's nothing wrong with it. It was just purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond that, all the best with the early access and with the game. I mean, we're going to follow you. I am definitely. Don't forget to at some point build a Mac version, please, so I can also play it. Until then, I'll have to ask one of the PC people to do that.
Oh no. Yeah.
Look into it. Problem is the graphics card at the moment. Mac graphics card. Complicated, because Macs don't have a good
say
graphics
that to
card.
my GTX 750 mobile from 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
Anywho, I guess that was everything from us. Ciao, guys.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks a lot for having us.